Dan Willis here, and we're talking about how to raise your credit score and specifically the 4 steps to dealing with debt collectors. Now, debt in collections is the most common type of credit report ding, and this is one of those areas where we really want to apply common sense, but common sense couldn't be further from the truth. So for example, many folks' top concern and priority when they're dealing with debt in collections is, will paying off collections help and improve your credit score? It makes sense and you'd think so, but au contraire, mon frere, as of 2018, if all you do is pay collections and nothing more, the only thing that's going to happen is a change in the status of that item on your credit report. It's going to go from an unpaid collection to a paid collection. But a paid collection is still a negative, damaging, derogatory item to have on your credit report. And Anthony Sprav, a spokesman for FICO, says collections on your credit report can damage and potentially drag your credit score down by as much as 100 points. If you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. The other problem is when you make that payment, and let's say you pay off that collection, that still means that that collection mark will stay on your credit report for 7 more years from the date of your payment, as in that's activity on your account, so it's going to re-age your account. Further, and especially in the past, the FICO credit scoring algorithm is often going to view that paid collection as recent activity, as in you recently just messed something up rather than you took financial responsibility. And so rather than your credit score improve, that recent paid collection in many instances will actually lower your credit score, which is horrifying, to put it mildly, because you didn't just recently screw up. And FICO sees and understands the problem with this, which is why they've made all these newest changes in the newest FICO 9 version. Nevertheless, let's move forward here and get to these 4 steps of dealing with debt collectors. Number 1 is to request debt validation. If you're currently getting those calls, those letters, or you've discovered that collection mark on your credit report, the very first step is to request debt validation. This is your right as a consumer granted by the FDCPA Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And essentially, when we request debt validation, we're saying, hey, debt collector, you first prove this is actually my debt. You own the rights. Show me the documents. After all, we didn't buy anything directly from this debt collector. They just showed up one day, popped up out of the woodwork demanding that we pay them money. So by requesting debt validation, that's the first step in doing the necessary due diligence. And it's most effective to make this request in writing and send it using certified mail with return receipt requested. That way you'll have evidence that you made your request and that they received it. You see, they're required to respond by providing you with the paperwork, the documents, and the evidence that does in fact prove this debt is yours. It should show you all the details about the debt. If they fail to validate your debt for any reason, even just as simple as they don't have their paperwork in order, then in compliance with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, that debt is forgiven, as in you're no longer legally responsible for payment. Further, they're supposed to contact all 3 of the credit bureaus to have them remove that collection listing from your credit report, because as we've shared, that's hurting and messing up your credit score. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. Now, the second step is looking at the legal time window. So if they do validate your account, our next step is to review this paperwork in detail. What we're looking for is your last date of account activity. You see, you're not legally responsible for payment forever. Specifically, we're talking about a state law called the Statute of Limitations, and this does vary by state, but this state legislation says exactly how long you are legally responsible for payment. Generally, it's about 7 years, and once this time window runs out and expires, so does your legal obligation. When the time window runs out and expires, your legal obligation ends. Now, this applies to the overwhelming majority of types of consumer debt, from medical bills to credit cards to utilities to telecommunications, retail accounts, and so many more. One of the few exceptions that isn't covered under the statute of limitations is federal defaulted student loans. Everything else is covered. And warning, and this is big, debt collectors are notorious for re-aging consumer accounts with the obvious purpose of continuing to try and collect payment, and oftentimes this re-aging is done illegally, so please beware and be cautious of that. Step number 3. If your account is validated and it's within the statute of limitations, our next step is to negotiate a settlement agreement directly with this debt collector. And there's 2 parts to your agreement, and it's best to get this agreement in writing. First, we always want to negotiate to settle our debt for much less than the total balance. Often, you'll be able to negotiate and settle for as little as 15% up to about 45% of your total balance. For example, with a $1,500 debt, you may be able to negotiate and settle for just 25% or $375. Debt collectors will be happy and thrilled to accept a settlement for less payment. This is standard operating practice in their industry. But wait, this second part of your agreement is mission critical. It is essential that we get this debt collector to agree that in exchange for our payment, they'll stop reporting our account information to all 3 of the credit bureaus. If we fail and overlook this step, then we're going to get stuck with that paid collection on our credit report, which, as we've shared, will hurt and damage and drag our credit score down. Now, we need to take a moment and dispel or discuss this. You'll see it all over the internet, but it's called a pay-for-delete approach to dealing with debt collectors. If you're unfamiliar, this is where we demand that the debt collector first delete the negative item from our credit report, and then we'll make payment. And it sounds wonderful, and we wish that it was this easy and that things work this way. Unfortunately, they don't. It's beyond wishful thinking. In our decade plus of working the front lines with folks, we've yet to hear of one individual or one debt collector ever making that agreement, and they won't. Instead, it's much more effective and much more pragmatic to simply get them to agree to stop reporting your account information in exchange for your payment. This is an agreement they will make, but you may need to be a bit of a pest about it. So, in other words, they might be reluctant to make it, but that's an agreement they will make. They'll never agree to a pay-for-delete, unfortunately. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. Now, our 4th and final step, how do we remove this collection listing from our credit report? Because as we've shared, it's messing up our credit score. And to do this, we're going to have to exercise more of your rights as a consumer, this time those granted under the FCRA Fair Credit Reporting Act. That is federal legislation passed way back in 1970 by Congress, and the purpose and what it does is it enables us to challenge and dispute any item on our credit reports so long as we believe it's inaccurate, misleading, or made in error. There's 3 ways to file your credit report dispute. You can do it online, over the phone, or by mail. Once the credit bureaus get our dispute, they first get to deem it valid or frivolous. Only on valid disputes are they required to investigate the item under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They'll call it a reinvestigation, nevertheless, during which they're going to contact that debt collector and they're going to ask them to verify that collection account. As per our settlement agreement directly with the debt collector, they're not going to verify our account when the credit bureaus investigate. That's the second part of our settlement agreement about them stop reporting our account information. As a result, and in compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, this means the credit bureaus must remove that collection listing from our credit report. This is how to get those negative, clear, bad credit items, any of those dings, those blemishes, or negative marks on your credit report. This is how to get them off legally by exercising your rights and without just sitting there and waiting 7 long, expensive years. And listen, getting this collection listing off of your credit report is incredibly powerful for your credit score. It's just as powerful for your credit score as it would be for your grade point average in removing an F from your transcript or getting rid of those items that cause a low credit score. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit consultation by calling toll-free 1-877-418-7596. Again, that's for a free credit consultation, and the toll-free phone number is 1-877-418-7596. This is Dan Willis. We'll include a link in the description below over to an article at our website for the full story. We also have a free report available there, the 7 proven ways to boost your credit score, and of course subscribe and join our congregation, because coming up next we're going to come up with that 4th and final video on our series here about how to raise your credit score, and we're talking specifically this credit bureau dispute process and actually how to clean up your credit report and get those dings, those blemishes, those negative marks off of your credit report so you'll get a better credit score. So of course subscribe and join our congregation. Have a wonderful day, and looking forward to talking to you again here soon.